B-2 Spirit lands after a 30-hour mission, and everything works exactly as designed. Engines, airframe, crew, all sound. It is one of the most reliable, most survivable aircraft ever built, and it just did something almost nothing else in the sky can do. It flew into contested airspace and out again without ever being detected. But run your hand along its skin, and you're touching the most precise surface in military aviation. A radar-absorbing coating tuned so finely it can swallow a radar pulse whole. That precision is exactly what makes the B-2 invisible. And precision that fine has a price. The same exquisite tuning that defeats radar can be nudged out of step by something as ordinary as humid air. So while the aircraft sits perfectly intact on the ramp, a maintenance crew is already at work, because the coating that came home is not quite the coating that took off. Over the next several days, they'll spend 50 to 120 hours coaxing the moisture back out, restoring the invisibility the air has been quietly pulling apart. This is classified Decoded. Today, we're going to show you the engineering behind one of the most demanding stealth coatings ever built, and the physics that the machine has to live inside. Because the story of the B-2 is the story of how the very thing that makes it a ghost is the thing ordinary moisture can reach. To see how, you need three things in order: what that invisible skin actually does, why water is the enemy every generation of that coating has had to fight, and why the fix the Air Force leaned on ties the whole fleet to 4 or 5 spots on the planet. Start with the skin. Ask most people what makes the B-2 stealthy, and they'll point at the shape. The flying wing. No tail, no fuselage sticking up, every edge swept and aligned. They're not wrong. That shape is doing real work, bending incoming radar energy off into empty sky instead of letting it bounce straight back to the dish that sent it. But shape can only get you so far. Even a perfectly drawn airframe still leaks a little radar back. Every seam and panel edge is a place where the geometry isn't quite perfect and a faint echo escapes. On a normal aircraft, that's fine. On a stealth aircraft, a faint echo is the difference between a shadow and a target. That's the half the skin handles, and it is not paint, no matter how often people call it that. The B-2 is wrapped in a material the engineers call RAM, radar-absorbent material. Think of it as an electromagnetic instrument bolted to the outside of an airplane, tuned with laboratory precision, doing one job: eating the radar energy the shape couldn't deflect. It is the most important component on the aircraft, and by a wide margin, the most fragile. To understand why a bomber is afraid of weather, you have to understand what that skin is doing, and how little it takes to stop it. Radar is simple in principle. Throw out a pulse of energy and listen for the echo. How long it takes tells you how far away something is. How loud it comes back tells you how big. Kill the echo, and you've erased the aircraft from the screen. Nothing for the operator to time, nothing to measure. RAM kills that echo by attacking it twice in the same instant. It begins with conversion. Baked into the material are ferrite grains, microscopic magnetic particles, and a web of carbon. When a radar wave pushes in, the grains drag on its magnetic field, and the carbon resists its electric field, turning the energy into a trace of heat that bleeds harmlessly into the airframe. The pulse goes in, warmth comes out. But conversion alone never finishes the job. A sliver of energy always survives the trip, reaches the metal underneath, and reflects. And if it escapes, the radar still has something to hear. So the material turns that leftover reflection against itself. Each layer is built to an exact thickness, so the wave bouncing off the bottom comes back precisely out of step with any reflection off the top. The two meet crest to trough and flatten each other to nothing. Picture two people tossing identical stones into a pond from opposite banks so the ripples collide in the middle and cancel, not weaken, cancel. That timing is the whole game, and it is brutally unforgiving. The cancellation only holds while every layer keeps its exact thickness and electromagnetic character. Get it slightly wrong, a hair too thick, a hair too dense, and the silence breaks. The material looks identical, the physics just stops cooperating. Now multiply that. The B-2 reportedly carries more than 200 different material formulations across its surface, each matched to a different slice of the radar spectrum, because real air defense networks don't all hunt at one frequency. It's not a coat of paint. It's an orchestra, and every instrument has to stay in tune at once. Which brings us to the catch buried inside the design. For the ferrite and carbon to absorb efficiently, they have to sit in a polymer that's deliberately open, porous at the molecular scale so the particles can interact with the radar field. That openness is exactly what makes the absorption work, and exactly what lets the outside world in. Seal the polymer tight to keep moisture out, and you shift the particles, detune the material, and wreck the absorption. The architecture that swallows radar is the one that can't keep water out. You can't shut the door without shutting the window, and the thing waiting on the other side of that window is the smallest, most ordinary enemy you can imagine. That enemy is water, and not the kind that falls in a storm. It's water as a vapor in the air, in quantities too small to see, slipping through the same open structure that lets the coating do its job in the first place. Remember what makes the cancellation work. It depends on the material holding one exact electrical property, the thing that sets the timing. Disturb that property even slightly and the timing drifts, the cancellation breaks, and the radar starts hearing what the coating was built to silence. And water is uniquely capable of disturbing that property because it is electromagnetically heavy, far more so than the polymer around it. You already know this from your kitchen. A microwave heats your food and not the plate because water molecules react violently to that band of energy, grabbing it and turning it into heat. The plate has no water, so it stays cool. That same property is what lets a little moisture flatten the careful timing inside RAM. When moisture works into the polymer at the microscopic level, it changes that property. The timing slips. The cancellation degrades. Where the radar should hear silence, it now hears a whisper. Where it should see nothing, a shape surfaces. The radar cross-section creeps upward, not from battle damage, not from an enemy doing anything at all, but from air that happened to be a little too humid on the flight line. There's a cleaner way to feel this. Noise-canceling headphones generate the exact mirror image of incoming sound at exactly the right instant, so the two collapse into quiet. Let that timing drift, not because anything broke, but because the conditions shifted underneath the math, and the counterwave arrives a beat late. The noise returns. Nothing is damaged. The timing just stopped being exact. RAM fails the same way. It doesn't crack or peel. It gets faintly, microscopically wet, and faintly wet is the whole thing. This is the real reason behind a number that sounds made up. Between 50 and 120 hours of maintenance for every hour the B-2 spends in the air, not because the bomber is fragile in flight, but because someone has to pull the moisture back out and retune the skin after the air spent the whole sortie trying to ruin it. It's also the cost gap. A B-2 runs roughly $130,000 to $200,000 an hour to fly. A B-52, older than most of the people maintaining it, runs around $70,000 to $88,000. That gap isn't fuel or weapons. It's the surcharge on staying invisible. One honest line, because it matters. A single humid afternoon doesn't flip the B-2 from invisible to exposed overnight. The decay is gradual, and what the maintainers are really protecting is margin, how far the radar cross-section can drift before low observable quietly becomes trackable. That margin is thin, and the maintenance cycle exists to keep the aircraft on the right side of it every sortie. The B-2 can fly in rain. The coating doesn't dissolve in a downpour. But every hour in damp air is an hour of moisture finding the seam gaps no factory ever fully eliminated. The bomber lands intact. The stealth doesn't always come back with it. Better coatings would come later, and they would help. But no formula could make the skin stop caring about the weather entirely. So the Air Force reached for an answer that didn't depend on chemistry at all: a building. If you can't keep the water out of the coating, keep the coating away from the water. That was the idea. At every place the B-2 would operate from, build climate-controlled shelters, sealed hangars where temperature and humidity are held steady around the clock, so the skin spends as little time as possible breathing open air. It worked. But it also created a constraint nobody had written into the original requirement. Consider what the airplane can do. With aerial refueling, its reach is effectively the whole planet, and it has struck targets on 3 continents. In 1999, over Kosovo, B-2s flew 30-hour round trips, Missouri to the Balkans and home again, without landing in theater. That reads as a triumph of range, but the reason behind it is the constraint. At the time, Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri was the only place on Earth with the infrastructure to keep the coating serviceable between flights. The 30-hour sorties weren't a choice. They were the consequence of having nowhere closer to launch from. Since then, the footprint has grown, a little. Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, Guam in the Pacific, RAF Fairford in England. Each one needed purpose-built, climate-sealed shelters costing hundreds of millions to stand up. Add them up and you get 4 or 5 spots on the entire globe from which a B-2 can realistically operate. There's the trade in its sharpest form. The B-2 can put a weapon on any point of the map, but the logistics of keeping it invisible pin its departure points to a tiny, fixed, predictable list. It's a surgeon who can operate on anyone alive, but only inside 4 specific hospitals. Set a B-52 beside it. A B-52 will park on any flight line on the planet, a ramp in Germany, a tarmac in Qatar, a strip in the Pacific, because it has nothing delicate to protect. It survives on standoff range and the missiles it throws from a safe distance, not on a coating that resents the weather, which is exactly why it's being re-engined and re-radared to fly on for decades at a fraction of the cost. The B-2 has no such freedom, and that creates a targetable vulnerability. An adversary who could never track a B-2 in the air can still ask where it has to take off from. And the fleet behind all this is smaller than people expect. 19 aircraft. 21 were built, 2 are gone. One, the Spirit of Kansas, was lost on takeoff at Guam in 2008 after moisture got into its air data sensors and fed the flight computer false airspeed. It stalled off the runway and never recovered. A sensor failure that time, not a coating failure, but the same enemy finding the same way in. Another was damaged so badly in a 2022 landing gear accident at Whiteman, north of $300 million, that the Air Force retired it rather than repair it. 19 bombers, 4 or 5 doors, and every hour of invisibility riding on a chain that begins in a sealed hangar and ends on a flight line where the air itself works to undo the skin. Put the 3 pieces together and a question surfaces that none of them asks alone. Is the B-2's stealth a technology, or a supply chain wearing the costume of a technology? The brochure says the B-2 can penetrate any air defense on Earth, and that's true. What it leaves out is that the skin which makes it true has to be tended after every flight, in a facility that exists in only 4 or 5 places on the planet, and that the physics absorbing the radar and the physics letting in the water are the same physics, one porous structure doing both jobs. So the RAM stops being a coating in your mind and becomes the choke point of the entire strategy. Whoever controls the humidity in that hangar controls how often the bomber can fly, and whether it matters at all. The question the Air Force has really lived with since 1989 was never, can the B-2 get through? It can. It's, can it fly often enough for getting through to count? And if you think this is a B-2 problem, look at the fighter that followed it. The F-22 carries the same kind of low observable skin, and the same physics charges it the same tax. When the first Raptors deployed to Guam in 2009, their early coatings couldn't hold up to the rain and salt air. The surface reverted and peeled, worst of all where the air was hottest and most humid. Even applying a fresh coat is hostage to the weather. The bonding chemicals only cure inside a narrow window of temperature and humidity. Every Raptor still goes through a multi-week low observable overhaul every few hundred flight hours to stay a ghost. Different airframe, same molecule winning the same fight. This was never the B-2's quirk. It's the price of admission for anything that wants to disappear from radar. But here is the part the story almost never tells. American engineers never accepted that price as fixed. On the B-2, they replaced hand-painted coatings with a new generation of radar-absorbent material applied by 4 computer-controlled robots, laying the skin down more uniformly and durably than any human hand could, built to hold up better and demand less attention between flights. On the F-22, Lockheed Martin engineered a tougher, more moisture-resistant coating to replace the brittle original, now being worked into the fleet to claw back the readiness humidity used to steel. None of this repeals the physics. Water is still heavy, the timing still has to hold. But it is the difference between paying full price and negotiating a better one. And learning to negotiate with physics again and again is one of the quiet things American stealth engineering does better than anyone else on Earth. If you followed all of that, you now understand stealth better than most people who write about it for a living. Stick around. Classified Decoded goes where the brochures stop. The B-21 Raider is the bet the Air Force is placing on the other side of this problem, built to carry the lesson in its bones rather than learn it on the flight line, with better coatings, gentler maintenance, and hangars that are less of a cage. The first operational Raiders are slated to reach Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota in 2027, in numbers the B-2 never had. But better engineering only ever buys a discount on this bill. It never cancels it. A stealth aircraft that demanded nothing from the weather would not be a stealth aircraft. So the real question isn't whether the next coating is tougher than the last. It's what kind of weapon we've been building all along. If invisibility has to be manufactured fresh before every flight, in a sealed room that exists in only a handful of places on Earth, then stealth isn't a thing you own. It's a thing you sustain. And the moment an adversary can sustain it more cheaply than we can, the advantage belongs not to whoever has the quieter aircraft, but to whoever can keep theirs in the air. The physics doesn't read budgets. It only counts the hours.